Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is David Novak. I am doing the university tag, I believe that's the name, which was created by Joe Spivey. I'm not real familiar with Joe Spivey's channel, but I will try to hunt it down and put a link in the description. This tag was going around a while ago and I was thinking that I would not do it or could not do it. And then earlier this month, I saw Renee at the Left-Handed Reader carry out the tag. And it's a really great video, so I will put a link to that in the description as well. And it gave me the gumption, possibly, to make my own attempt at this. So there are 9 prompts, and I will put those in the description. Number 1, etymologically, the word university is derived from the Latin universitas, magistrorum et scholarium, meaning a community of teachers and scholars. What was the last book you read written by 2 or more writers in coordination? Well, last year I read, and it really wasn't so much a book written by, but a conversation between 2 writers in coordination, and that was On History by Tariq Ali and Oliver Stone. It was a pretty breezy read, and I retain little of it, and I didn't care for it that much. As for genuine books written by 2 authors, I can't think of any. I tend to avoid that kind of thing. I just, no matter how I try to comb my memory for this kind of answer to a prompt, I just can't do it, generally speaking. Number 2. In 1008, the University of Bologna saw the advent of the university as we recognize it today. What is your favorite, most recently read novel set in Italy? Now, I would have guessed that the university as we recognize it today had its advent somewhere in the Muslim world, but perhaps there is some more to it than that. So I don't read a lot of novels set in Italy. I can't think of any except for Romola, which I've talked about on this channel so much. It is by George Eliot, and it's a piece of historical fiction, and it's a great read for anybody who is interested in the time period. I cannot judge the novel exclusive of that or outside of that historical aspect. I loved it. It was my top book of last year. I don't know that I will have a top book of this year. At least I can't offhand think of any contenders. Number 3. University study usually involves a significant change of residence or lifestyle. What is your favorite book series focusing on an immediate change of residence? Now, I don't know that I have a favorite one, but just in this year I've read a few that do deal with that. There was Silas Marner by George Eliot, and I liked that fine. There was A Month in the Country by J.L. Carr, and I liked that fine. And there was Anne of Green Gables, which I liked that fine at the beginning. So I don't know that either of these 3 can be considered a favorite of mine. I think the trope of somebody coming from outside to a new place is fairly common in literature. It's a good way to set up a story. But offhand, I can't think of anything that I would call a favorite. You have to understand that I've only been reading solidly since the beginning of 2022. I've been dedicating myself to reading. I set down one book and I pick up the next. And until, say, 8 years ago or 7 years ago, I almost never read novels at all. And most of these prompts really tend to deal with novels. So, number 4, the 21st century university student is expected to fork out tens of thousands in order to breach a university's sun-gilt facilities. Name a book that cost you an exorbitant amount in exchange for little reward. And this will be no surprise to at least recent viewers of my channel. Aristotle. Now, I can't imagine that I bought these new, but even used, I'm sure I paid a somewhat hefty price. Now, I've read, not from these volumes, the Nicomachean Ethics in part, and I think there's one on poetry that I've read in part. So I have essentially gotten no reward for an exorbitant sum with these, but I still consider it, in a moral sense, worthwhile having, because they sit there upon the shelf as sort of a beacon to the kind of reader, the kind of person, the kind of scholar that I would like to be. I think, even though I am not breaking these open, the book that I just read of natural history about the octopuses et al. Can, in some sense, be derived from Aristotle. Now, I thought, because I've shown those books at least 2 other times on this channel and never said anything about Plato, I should show you at the same time I bought this hefty volume. And this volume, like that, is untouched, unopened. I wonder if these were some of the Jowett translations revised. It was a hard choice which volume to pick up. There's a couple of options with the complete Plato. And happy to say, at least with Plato, I have probably read a real good portion of this. I haven't counted it out, but I've read a good number of books featuring Socrates, and then even without, when Plato is on his own, as I recall. Probably due for a revisit, because I haven't read any of that in a long time. Number 5, universities and their attached student unions boast innumerable societies that gather zealots of everything from badminton to beard trimming to bardolatry. Name your favorite book that crafts or envisions a new or alternate society. Now that is a hard one for me, because here again, I can only think of one book. Now, perhaps The Lathe of Heaven did so, and I read that so long ago that I don't remember it at all. But some years back, I did read We by Yevgeny Zamyatin, and here we go. That's the book. And I don't know what happened to my copy of it. I don't think I would throw it out. And I don't know that I was enthralled with it at the time, but that book has a tremendous staying power. I still retain a lot of it in my psyche. Number 6. What is your favorite novel set within the walls of a university campus? And here again, I do not have one. I was thinking about Disgrace by J.M. Coetzee, but I have not actually read it. So I don't think it would qualify. It's a book that I hope to get to. I can't think of a book set in the university. So that one, drawing a blank on. Number 7. Universities are touted as bastions of free thought and uninhibited expression. Name a book you've read that is produced by someone with whom you fundamentally disagree on the subject, but you like because of the eloquence with which it is written. I don't know that I can offhand think of, excuse me, an answer for that. Possibly sections of the Bible. That's a tough one. I couldn't say the Bible as a whole because I don't particularly like it as a whole, but there are sections that I like. So that's probably the nearest I can come to answering that question. Number 8. Universities pride themselves on cherishing outpourings from previously silenced or oppressed minorities. Name a favorite book written by someone from an underrepresented group. Now that, I have not read an awful lot of books by someone from an underrepresented group. That's kind of a hard phrase to really define regardless. But this year I did read a couple of collections of short stories which are written by authors of groups that are certainly underrepresented in my reading history. So there was The Night of the Living Rez, by, I think, Malcolm Talty. Is that it? Let's see if I can find it here. Morgan Talty. My apologies. And then sometime after that, I read God's Children Are Little Broken Things by Arinze Ifeakandu, a gay Nigerian author, I believe. So both American Indians in the first and gay Nigerians in the second are representative, at least, of underrepresented groups in my history of reading. Number 9. University study can be riddled with dense, impenetrable scholarly tomes. What is your favorite piece of interpretive nonfiction written by an academic? Well, that's a tough one, too. I might easily, I suppose, point to something by one of my favorite critics, F.R. Leavis, or, well, come to think of it, not a lot of the critics that I love were academics. But I decided to go with Robert Scholes, whom I was talking about recently for some reason or other. And I will read you a little bit from his essay, Decoding Papa, which takes a look at the Ernest Hemingway story titled A Very Short Story. And he deconstructs the story, and I'll just read you a little bit from that. The student interpreting a very short story as a work is put into an interesting position. Like many of Hemingway's early stories, this one presents a male character favorably and a female unfavorably. In fact, it strongly implies favorable things about masculinity and unfavorable things about femininity. It does this, as our semiotic analysis has shown, by mapping certain traits onto a value structure. The good, loyal, reticent male character is supported by the discourse through its covert first-person perspective and the complicity of its style with those values. The bad, treacherous, talkative female is cast out. Even the carefully established point of view is violated in the last paragraph so that the narrator can track loose through eternity and assure us that she never married her major in the spring or any other time. But for the most part, Hemingway's control over his text is so great that the anger at the root of the story is transformed into what we may take as the cool, lapidary prose of the pure, impersonal artist. So in a previous part of the essay, he takes a paragraph or a couple of paragraphs, and in one case, he rewrites them. In one case, he is transposed to I, and in the other case, he transmutes she to I, and it works in one case and it doesn't work in the other case. And so I will give you a little bit from his conclusion. The text produced by Hemingway responds to a double motivation. It wants to be art, to be a work that is complete in itself, but it also wants to rewrite life, to make its surrogate protagonist more triumphant as a lover, more active as a soldier, and more deeply victimized as a man than was the author himself. In the course of the essay, he traces origins of the plot details to Hemingway's own life. So it's an essay that I look back with great fondness to. I believe I have accomplished the tag. I should say thank you to Joe Spivey for inventing the tag. As I say, when it was going around initially, I was really enjoying watching all the versions of it as they popped up. And I would also like to thank Renee for doing her lovely version of the tag and even giving me a word of encouragement in the comments. Thank you very much for stopping by my channel.